So, as far as I have seen, that the next three chapters are about the greatness of Surya, Aditya, and Konaditya. So I don't know what's going to come after that, but hopefully we'll get to discuss more than those three chapters. So I got a little late today. I overslept. I'm really sorry for that. Just woke up. Good morning. Here's my morning coffee. Waking up at night, and we are going to discuss Suryadev, which is pretty funny. And let one or two people come join us, and I'll start discussing anyway. So let's do a bit of recap until they come, until other people come. Yeah. Harsh is saying, just came here leaving my anime Kaguya-sama. Oh, nice. Thank you. So, in the last day's Brahma Purana discussion, the last chapter we had discussed was description of Bharatavarsha. And so we'll do a bit of recap of that. So that subchapter had ended with saying that, this is one interesting part, that the gods always have this wish that when we are dislodged from the state of being a god, may we be born on earth in Bharata. The gods and the asuras are incapable of doing what humans do. Men can devote themselves to karma, whereas they are always anxious to exhaust the results of their karma. O Brahmanas, on earth there is no other place like Bharatavarsha. Here, Brahmanas and other Varnas obtain what they desire. The best among men who are born in Bharatavarsha are blessed. They obtain the great fruits of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. They obtain the fruits of austerity, which are extremely difficult to obtain. All the fruits of donations are obtained, as well as the fruits of sacrifices. All the fruits of visiting the Tirthas properly are obtained, as are the fruits of serving the Guru. There are the fruits of worshipping the gods and the fruits of Garhastya. The gods always desire a wonderful birth here. There are the fruits of many kinds of vows and the fruits of many sacred texts. There are the proper fruits of non-violence, as there are the fruits of everything else that is wished for. There are the fruits of brahmacharya, and there are the fruits of self-study. There are the fruits of residing in a forest, and there are the fruits of sannyasa. There are the fruits of ishta and purta, as there are the fruits of other auspicious deeds. O best among Brahmanas, what can be obtained in Bharatavarsha cannot be obtained elsewhere. O Brahmanas, who is capable of speaking about all the good qualities of Bharata? Thus, I have accurately spoken about the excellent Bharatavarsha. This account destroys all sins. It is sacred and blessed and improves the intelligence. If a person constantly hears this, controls his senses, meditates on it, he is freed from all sins and goes to Vishnu's world. This is where last day's chapter had ended. Yeah, hi Rohan. And now we start the subchapter called Greatness of Konaditya. So, in Konaditya, it starts with Brahma himself. So Brahma says, in Bharatvarsha, on the shores of the southern region, there is a land known as Onda. Actually, Konaditya is supposed to be worshipped in Orissa. So Onda probably ends up meaning Orissa. I don't know. We'll get to it. There is a land known as Onda. It grants heaven and moksha. There is a beautiful and circular dust-free region just to the north of the ocean. This land is populated by those who possess all the qualities, and they are ornamented by their own qualities. The Brahmanas who are born in that region, who have control over their senses, they are engaged in austerity and self-study. They are always revered and worshipped. Those men originated from the gods and are praised for all kinds of rites. funerals, donations, marriages, sacrifices, and teaching. The Brahmanas from that region are accomplished in the Vedas and are engaged in the 6 tasks. They know about Itihasa and are accomplished in the purport of the Puranas. They are knowledgeable about the meanings of all the sacred texts. They undertake sacrifices and are devoid of envy. Some perform Agnihotra. Some maintain the fire decreed in the Smriti texts. They possess sons, wives, and wealth. They are the ones who offer oblations. They are truthful in speech. They reside in the sacred region of Utkala, which is ornamented with sacrifices and festivals. So Utkala is in the Odisha region, right? The other 3 Varnas there, Kshatriyas and others, are also restrained. They are engaged in their own tasks and are tranquil. Everyone, मतलब एकदम peaceful, शांत रहते हैं. Everyone who resides there is devoted to Dharma. The god Divakara is famous there as Konaditya. If a mortal person sees Bhaskara there, he is freed from all sins. The sages said, "We now wish to hear about Surya's Kshetra. O best among gods, tell us about the region where Divakara exists." Brahma replied, "This sacred and extremely beautiful place is on the shores of the salty ocean." Yeah, this is Odisha. The region is full of sand everywhere and possesses all the qualities. In every direction, the place is ornamented with Champaka, Ashoka, Bakula, Karavira, Patala, Punnaga, Karnikara, Bakula, Nagakeshara, Tagara, Dhava, Pana, Atimukta, Kubjaka, Malati, the Kunda flower, Mallika, groves with clumps of Ketaki, Kadamba, Lakucha, Shala, Panasa, Devadaru, Sarala, Muchukunda, white and other kinds of Chandana, Ashwatha, Saptaparna, Amra, Amrataka, Tala, Puga fruit, Narikela, Kapithaka, and many other kinds of trees. In every direction it is radiant with flowers. Ravi's sacred Kshetra there is famous in the world. Maybe they are talking about Konark Sun Temple. For 1 yojana in every direction, the place grants objects of pleasure and emancipation. The god Divakara, with the 1000 rays, is himself there. The place is famous as Konaditya. It grants objects of pleasure and emancipation. On the 7th day of Shukla Paksha in the month of Magha, a person should control his senses and fast there. He must bathe in that abode of Makaras. Yeah, Makar Sankranti is mainly celebrated in Odisha. So this seems to be like pretty an obvious reference to Odisha. Ashwani, Ram Ram. Yeah, hi Ram Ram. Having purified himself, see, a lot of Marxists point out that the people living on the seashores of Bengal have been called mlechas, I guess, in some Puran. But Odisha is being mentioned as a heavenly place where moksha can be attained. So that's pretty interesting. Which is nearby. Odisha is just next to in Bengal's beaches. But so Bengal's beaches के रहने वालों को mlecha बोला गया है और Odisha पास में ही है, वो मोक्ष का जगह है. But Marxists use that them being called mlechas as an argument to support that these regions, Bengal, etc., were never part of the original Hindu civilization. Having purified himself and having purified his Atman, he should remember the god Divakara. In the presence of the sun, he must follow the norms, bathe in the ocean, and control himself. Okay, for those who just joined, Ashwani, we are discussing the chapter called The Greatness of Konaditya. He must satisfy the gods, the rishis, humans, and the ancestors. He must wear a clean upper garment that is absolutely clean. Controlling himself, he must then rinse his mouth on the shores of the great ocean. When the sun rises, he must sit down facing the sun. Using red sandalwood mixed with water, an intelligent person must then draw the mark of a lotus. It should be circular, with 8 petals and a firm filament, with the pericarp facing upwards. In a copper vessel, he must place sesamum, rice, water, sandalwood, a red flower, and darbha grass. If a copper vessel is not available, the sesamum and other things can be placed on a leaf of the sun plant. O best among sages, this vessel must then be covered with another vessel and placed down. After this, karanyasa and anganyasa must be performed. Properly and faithfully, he must meditate on Bhaskara being stationed in his limbs, his heart, and his Atman. An intelligent person must worship him in the middle of the petals and to the southeast, southwest, northwest, and northeast of the petals. After this, he must again worship him in the middle. He must worship the god who is extremely radiant and represents supreme bliss. He must worship the lotus and invoke Bhaskara from the sky into the lotus. Placing him atop the pericarp, he must display the mudras. After having bathed and done the other things, he must control himself and meditate. Ravi is established like a drop of energy on top of the white lotus. He has 2 arms and his eyes are red. His complexion is red, and his garments have the hue of a red lotus. He possesses all the signs, and he is adorned with all the ornaments. He is extremely handsome and serene. The granter of boons is adorned with a halo of radiance. The rising Bhaskara is like a thick mark of vermilion. Having seen him, he must kneel down on the ground. He must pick up the vessel and place it on his head. He must silently use the mantras with the 3 aksharas to worship him by offering him arghya in that vessel. A mantra with 3 aksharas is probably Om, right? Gayatri mantra, I think. Om, then the Gayatri mantra. Rohan is saying, I'm from Purva Medinipur district, West Bengal, which shares a border with Odisha. Also, Purva Medinipur is a coastal district. That means I'm Mlecha. Probably if you lived on the beach, then you'd be Mlecha. But that's mentioned only in one Purana. Maybe when that Purana was being written, they had some feud with those guys, so that's why they declared them Mlecha. He must silently use the mantras with the 3 aksharas to worship him by offering him arghya in that vessel. A person who has not been initiated should not address the sun god by name while offering the arghya. Ravi can be reached if the sentiments are full of faith and devotion. Beginning with the east, Ravi must be worshipped in the heart, the head, the tuft of hair, the armor, the eyes, and the weapon. After the arghya has been given, fragrances, incense, a lamp, eatables must be offered. After chanting, praising, and bowing down, he must display the proper mudras and allow the deity to leave. If Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, women or Shudras restrain themselves and by controlling their senses offer arghya to Surya, always pure in their inner cores and filled with faithful sentiments, they enjoy all the desired objects of pleasure and attain the supreme end. Bhaskara, the divinity who travels in the firmament, is a lamp to the 3 worlds. A man who remembers him obtains happiness. Until arghya has been offered to Bhaskara in the proper way, Vishnu, Shankara, or the Lord of the gods must not be worshipped. So first you have to worship Bhaskara. Therefore, with care, the arghya must be offered every day. After purifying and controlling himself, if a person offers flowers, excellent fragrances, and arghya to Aditya in this way, or if he bathes, purifies himself, and offers these to Aditya on the 7th lunar day, he obtains the desired fruits. Phal. A diseased person is freed from disease. A poor person obtains wealth. A person who desires learning obtains knowledge. A person who desires sons obtains sons. By offering arghya to Surya, a person obtains whatever he desires. A learned man instantly obtains all these fruits. If a man or a woman bathes in the ocean and bowing down offers arghya to Surya, the person obtains all the fruits that are wished for. If a man bathes in the waters of the Ganga and uses a blade of kusha grass to sprinkle water on his head with the kusha grass, thereafter worshipping Surya, he is freed from all sins and goes to heaven. Thus, he must silently gather flowers and go to Surya's temple. Having entered, he must perform pradakshina thrice and worship Bhanu. Bhanu is another name for the sun, of course. By saying Namaskar Mlechas. Yes. O supreme among sages, with mantras from the Vedas and the Tantra texts, he must worship God Bhanu. In Konarka, yes, in the beginning of the subchapter I was saying that this is probably a reference to the Konark Sun Temple, and now we have a confirmation, guys. O supreme among sages, with mantras from the Vedas and the Tantra texts, he must worship God Bhanu in Konarka with supreme devotion. He must offer fragrances, flowers, lamps, incense, and food. He must prostrate himself like a staff on the ground and praise him, uttering exclamations of victory, Jai, Jai Dhvani. If a man worships the God, the Lord of the universe, the one with 1,000 rays, in this way, he obtains the fruits of 10 horse sacrifices. Ye dekho, this sounds like another Upanishad concept, right? Again, what we had discussed even in last day's Brahma Purana, they were saying that the hell and heaven is in the mind, in your actions, etc. Tirtha bhi tumhare andar hai, purity se socho, etc. So again, they are saying that sacrifices are not necessary. So this is a much later text. This is a proof that now they have already moved beyond the unnecessary animal killings. He is cleansed of all sins. He becomes young and becomes the possessor of a divine body. O Brahmanas, he saves 7 generations of ancestors and 7 generations of descendants. On a Vimana that possesses the complexion of the sun and can go wherever it wishes, he is praised by the Gandharvas and goes to Surya's world. Now this is interesting because how do they have the concept of a Vimana in mind? They have not even seen, they don't know that a Vimana can actually exist someday. They don't have any technology for it, but they have imagined the concept of an aeroplane, okay? Because they are saying that on a Vimana that possesses the complexion of the sun, can go wherever it wishes. He is praised by the Gandharvas and goes to Surya's world. Okay, Ashwani is saying, isn't Puranas somewhat influenced of Biblic and Greek mythology things because they weren't written at that time? ঠান্ডা লেগে গেছে তোমার, আমার ডাস্ট অ্যালার্জি, আজকে উঠেছি প্রচুর ধোঁয়া ফোঁয়া ছিল বাইরে, তাই ডাস্ট অ্যালার্জি হয়ে গেছে। No, they don't have to have influence of biblical things, but Greek mythology के साथ introduction हुआ होगा, because these are written around like just before BC or just after AD, those times. Those are the timelines of Puranas. And then also the original Puranas were supposed to have been written much earlier. Then only some of their original texts remained. Then they were added up with more texts later on after AD. And see, there are so many Puranas. कौन सा पुराण कब लिखा गया, कौन सा पुराण में बाइबल या ग्रीक मैथोलॉजी का इन्फ्लुएंस है, उसमें भी बहुत कन्फ्यूजन है. सो फार आई एम नॉट फाइंडिंग एनीथिंग बिब्लिकल, और आई डोंट नो मच अबाउट ग्रीक मैथोलॉजी दो, बट बिब्लिकल इन्फ्लुएंसेस यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं दिखा है मुझे. बट आई कैन नोटिस बिब्लिकल influences when I read them, because I did find them in Srila Prabhupada's interpretation of every philosophy. I have a book called it's called Beyond Illusion and Doubt, where he has conversations with his disciple, and every chapter is about one Western philosopher, one chapter per one Western philosopher. तो वहाँ पे उनका फिलोसफी पढ़ के समझ में आया कि इट्स अ फ्यूजन बिटवीन क्रिश्चियनिटी एंड कम्युनिज्म. So it doesn't seem so, at least here. Afin, you people keep forgetting that there was a longer oral tradition before writing them down. Exactly. Also, Purana is literally mentioned in the Vedas themselves. Is there now? I did not know that. But those exact Puranas, those Puranas which were mentioned in the Vedas, they are not exactly the Puranas I'm reading. The final Puranas that we have today, all the 18 Puranas, they were finally written down and compiled much later. By much later, I mean sometime after AD, pre-medieval at least. So, but a lot of sections of these texts are have survived from the ancient times as well. So it's a fusion of those, which is the case with almost all Indic texts, right? Because it's such a long lineage. तो कुछ पुराने वाला कुछ नया वाला तो रहेंगे ही. But since Brahma Puran seems to be repeatedly moving away from animal sacrifices, that's why I'm getting the impression that it's at least written parallelly, if not later, than when the Upanishad thoughts had come in already. Until the time of the deluge, when all creatures are destroyed, he enjoys the supreme objects of pleasure there. When his store of good merits is exhausted. Acha, okay, so when Kali Yuga ends. When his store of good merits is exhausted, he is born on earth, but in a family of foremost yogis. He becomes a Brahmana who knows about the 4 Vedas. He is pure and is engaged in his own Dharma. When he is united with Vivasvat, he obtains emancipation. In Shukla Paksha, in the month of Chaitra, if a man goes to Damana Bhanjika, he obtains the fruits that have been mentioned earlier. If a man controls his senses and undertakes this yatra before going to bed, before the sun rises, at the end of Uttarayana, at the end of Dakshinayana, on Sunday, or on special Parva days, he goes to Surya's world on a Vimana that has the complexion of the sun. Mahadeva also exists there, on the shore of the Lord of the Rivers. That place yields all the fruits of desire, and he is known as Rameshwara there. Having properly bathed in the great ocean, if a person goes and sees Kama's enemy, it's a footnote is given. This means that Shiva burnt down Kama, the god of love, and is therefore Kama's enemy. Okay, so here by Kama's enemy, Shiva it means Shiva. Having properly bathed in the great ocean, if a person goes and sees Kama's enemy, Shiva, there and bows down and worships him with fragrances, flowers, incense, lamps, food, hymns, songs, and enchanting musical instruments, he obtains the fruits of a properly performed royal sacrifice or horse sacrifice. Such a person becomes great-souled and obtains supreme success. On a Vimana that is decorated with nets of bells and can go wherever it wants, he is praised by Gandharvas and goes to Shiva's world. Until the time of the deluge, he enjoys all the wonderful objects of pleasure there. When his store of good merits is exhausted, he is born on earth as someone who knows the 4 Vedas. When he is united with Shankara, he obtains emancipation. Until the time of deluge jo bol raha hai. Deluge means until the time that all this exists. If a man gives up his life in Savitar's Kshetra, by Kshetra means a sacred, a tirtha place as well. If a man gives up his life in Savitar's Kshetra, he ascends to Surya's world and amuses himself with the gods in heaven. When he is again born as a human, he becomes a king who is devoted to Dharma. When he is united with Dharma, he obtains emancipation. O best among sages, thus I have spoken to you about the best of Kshetras, which is so very difficult to obtain. This is Konarka, on the shores of the ocean. It yields the fruits of objects of pleasure and emancipation. Shal Sharma is saying, excellent effort, bro. Thank you. Oh, by the way, not all chapters of all Puranas are accepted by institutes. They have their way through the library. I see. No, deluge is referring to before the current Manu's arrival. अच्छा. हाँ, क्योंकि टाइम तो साइक्लिकल है वैसे भी. ये तो पूरा का पूरा जजमेंट डे तो नहीं है. Now, greatness of Surya's worship. The sages said, O best among the gods, we have heard what you have said about Bhaskara's supreme Kshetra, which grants obtains of pleasure and emancipation, calm and moksha. However, we are not satisfied after hearing about this sacred and pleasing account that has flowed from your mouth about Aditya's place, which destroys sins. O best among the gods, O supreme among eloquent ones, after this, tell us about the fruits of worshipping the god, the fruits of donations, the fruits of prostrating oneself and worshipping him, the fruits of pradakshina, the fruits of offering lamps and incense, the modes of cleaning oneself, the merits of fasting and the merits of eating only in the night. What has been said about offering arghya? Where must it be given? How does one ensure devotion? How is the god pleased? O best among the gods, we desire to hear all this. Brahma replied, O supreme among Brahmanas, I will tell you everything about offering arghya to Bhaskara and worshipping him, about faith, devotion and samadhi. Listen. Faith is a state of mind, and it is also spoken of as devotion. Samadhi is said to be concentrated dhyana. Listen attentively. If a man faithfully recounts this, if a man worships that reciter, or if a person tends to the sacrificial fire, such a person is said to be an eternal devotee. His mind and consciousness are always fixed on worshipping the god. If he is engaged in the god's tasks, such a person is an eternal devotee. O Brahmanas, if a man chants about the god, he is thought to be a superior devotee than the man who only undertakes rites for the sake of the Vedas. Such a man is the supreme devotee. He bears no malice towards the devotees of other gods, nor does he criticize them. If a man follows Aditya's vows, he is a superior devotee. If a man always remembers Bhaskara, whether he is walking, standing, sleeping, smelling, opening his eyes, or closing his eyes, he is a superior devotee. A person who knows must always exhibit devotion in this way. With faith, one must use samadhi to perceive the truth in one's mind. One must observe niyama, and give donations to brahmanas. When men give these, it is actually the gods and the ancestors who receive them. Gods accept whatever is properly offered through devotion, leaves, flowers, fruits and waters. However, they avoid non-believers. A footnote is given, it means nastikas obviously. Whatever one does, one must be pure in sentiments and observe the norms of niyama. If one acts so as to ensure purity of sentiments, all the fruits are obtained. If one faithfully worships Vivasvat through praise, japa, gifts and fasting, one is freed from all sins. If a person touches his head down on the ground, prostrates himself and bows down to him, he is instantly freed from all sins. There is no doubt about this. If a man is filled with devotion and performs pradakshina of Ravi, it is as if he has done a pradakshina of the earth with its 7 dvipas. If a man has Surya in his mind and does a pradakshina of Surya's temple, it is as if he has undertaken pradakshina of all the gods. And here by Surya's temple it is meant that we have translated Vyoma as Surya's temple. Okay, so the word used originally in the text was Vyoma. On the 6th lunar day, if a man eats once a day and worships Ravi, following vows and niyama, he is regarded as someone who is full of faith towards Ravi. If an immensely fortunate person fasts for a night and a day and then worships Bhaskara on the 7th lunar day, he obtains the fruits of a horse sacrifice. If a person performs the worship on the 6th lunar day and the 7th lunar day, he obtains the supreme destination and goes to Surya's world on a vehicle that has the complexion of the fire, Vimana. If a person controls his senses, fasts and uses a gift of all the jewels to worship Bhaskara on the 7th lunar day of Krishna Paksha, he goes to Surya's world on a vehicle that has the complexion of a lotus. If a man fasts and uses all kinds of white gifts to worship Bhaskara on the 7th lunar day of Shukla Paksha, he is freed from all sins and goes to Surya's world. There is a praised rite, R-I-T-E rite. There is a praised rite known as Arka Saptami. On the first day of the vow, the devotee must drink as much of water as can be held in a cup made out of a leaf of the Arka plant. This must be gradually increased by one more portion every day for 24 days and then decreased by one portion every day for 24 days. The vow is completed when it has been followed for 2 years. If the 7th lunar day of Shukla Paksha happens to be a Sunday, it is known as Saptami Vijaya and brings great fruits. Bathing, donations, austerities, oblations and fasting on Saptami Vijaya destroy major sins. If a man performs a funeral ceremony on Sunday and undertakes a sacrifice to Mahashweta, he obtains great fruits. Mahashweta means dazzling white. Mahashweta in the feminine is Saraswati or Durga's name. Here in the masculine, it means Surya. Okay, so this is Mahashweta with one A, and Mahashweta is the feminine version, who is the which might mean goddess Durga or Saraswati. But here it means Mahashweta, just very Shweta. His rites of Dharma, R-I-T-E-S, his rites of Dharma directed towards Bhaskara are always successful. No poor or diseased person is born in his family. If a man plasters his house with white, red or yellow clay, fasts and worships Chitrabhanu with diverse fragrant flowers, he obtains all the fruits he can think of. Chitrabhanu is also Surya. He obtains everything that he desires. If he performs this worship after lighting a lamp filled with ghee or sesamum oil, he remains young and has a long lifespan. His eyesight does not weaken. If a person is devoted to donating lamps, his lamp of knowledge always remains ignited. With clear intelligence and senses, he may sometimes be emancipated. Sesamum seeds are extremely sacred, and a gift of sesamum seeds is an excellent gift. It is used in a lamp to light a fire. It destroys great sins. If a person constantly donates lamps in temples of the gods, squares or roads, he remains handsome and is extremely fortunate. In a lamp, the first preference is to use ghee. The second preference is to use juices from herbs. Fat, marrow and bones must never be used. The flame of the lamp must always rise upwards, never downwards. If a person donates a lamp, he is radiant and is never born as inferior species. A burning lamp must never be taken away or destroyed. If a man steals a lamp, he faces bondage, killing, rage, and darkness. A person who donates a lamp is as radiant in heaven as a garland of lamps. If a man constantly decorates lamps with aloe and sandalwood, he is the best among men and obtains wealth, fame, and prosperity. If a man wakes up in the morning and purifying himself always offers an arghya of red flowers mixed with red sandalwood, he obtains success at the end of a year. There is a vow named after Aditya and it destroys great sins. As the sun circles from sunrise to sunset, one must be fixed in one place, facing the sun, performing japa with a mantra or a hymn. If a person faithfully offers arghya and everything else at the time of sunrise, he is freed from all sins. If the person who offers the arghya adds gold, a cow, a bull, a bit of land, or a garment along with it, he obtains the appropriate fruits for 7 births. The offering of pinda must carefully be offered to the fire, water, space, clean ground, and the image of the deity. It must not be offered to the left or the right, but straight ahead. Filled with devotion, it must be offered to Ravi along with ghee and gugula. The man must faithfully offer all the worship in Ravi's direction. There is no doubt that he will be instantly freed from all sins. If a person offers turpentine, which means, which is here mentioned as Shrivasa, there is no doubt that he will be instantly freed from all sins. If a person offers turpentine, the oil of a devdaru tree, the oil of a shala tree, camphor, aloe or incense, he goes to heaven. In particular, if a person worships Surya during Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, he is freed from all sins. This presumably means at the times when one ayana changes to another. In particular, if a person performs this worship during these transits or at the time of Shadashiti, he is freed from all sins. This means that when solstices or equinoxes occur in the signs of Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini or Virgo, if a man faithfully worships Arka, whether it is along the shore or not along the shore, he obtains greatness in Arka's world. If a person offers Krisara, Payasam, sweet cakes, fruits, roots, ghee, rice and other offerings to Surya, he obtains all the objects of desire. Payasam is a dish made out sweetened milk and rice. Krisara is a dish made out of sesamum and grain. In Bengali, payasam is known as payesh. With offerings of ghee, a person becomes the best among men. With offerings of milk, one never suffers from mental distress. Because milk was one of the most valuable things they had around in the category of food. That's why offering ghee is extremely significant. With offerings of curds, a man obtains success in his tasks. If a person controls and purifies himself and brings water for bathing Bhanu from a tirtha, he obtains the supreme destination. If a person faithfully offers Bhanu an umbrella, a standard, a canopy, a standard meaning a stick, a flag or a whisk, he obtains the desired destination. When a man faithfully offers an object to Aditya, Bhaskara returns it back to him 100,000 times. Through prostrating oneself to Surya, all evil deeds in the form of thought, speech and deeds are destroyed. The fruits that are obtained through a single day's worship of Bhanu are more than those obtained through 100 sacrifices with appropriate dakshina. Listen to this line. The fruits that are obtained through a single day's worship of Bhanu are more than the fruits obtained through 100 sacrifices with proper dakshina. Ek din ka proper worship is more than 100 sacrifices. Again, seems like an Upanishad concept that they are moving away from ritualistic sacrifices and getting into more conceptualizations and metaphors. Okay. Lots of comments here. Dada, Jai Shri Radha Krishna, Jai Shri Radha Krishna. Binay is saying ahimsa doesn't mean non-violence, but it means minimization of violence. Shri Krishna obey ahimsa, Shri Ram also obeyed ahimsa. Yeah, also ahimsa is for your personal life. Swadharma और राजधर्म के बीच में difference है. Neil, this paper कौन सा पढ़ोगे कल? Paper tomorrow is not paper. Tomorrow we will discuss history of Indian philosophy. And on next day we will discuss day after tomorrow night we will discuss a paper. I found a great paper written by a Bengali scholar, Bengali sociologist, and it's a recently released paper. It discusses how caste is not inherently Hindu, how caste is not uniquely Hindu, and how casteism is there in almost all societies, especially Japan. His focus of research is Japan, and he's an assistant professor of sociology in Singapore University. We will discuss his paper on Thursday. It's going to be fun. Not Thursday, Friday. Okay, now this subchapter is called Aditya's Greatness. The sages said, "O Lord of the universe, we have heard about God Bhaskara's greatness. O best among the gods, you have spoken about it, and it is extremely rare to hear this. O Lord of the universe, Please tell us what we are asking you about again. O Brahma, O Brahma, we have great curiosity and wish to hear about it. If a person in a state of brahmacharya, garhastya, vanaprastha or sannyasa desires moksha, which divinity should he worship? How can one certainly obtain heaven? How can one obtain supreme benefit? What does one do if one is again dislodged from heaven? Who is the god among the gods? Who is the ancestor among the ancestors? O Lord of the gods, who is the one who has no one superior to him? Tell us about this. O Brahma, what was this universe with its mobile and immobile objects created from? Where does it go at the time of destruction? You should tell us about this. Brahma replied, O supreme among Brahmanas, when he rises, he dispels the darkness of the universe with his rays. There is no god who is superior to him. He has no beginning and no end. He is the eternal and undecaying being. As he revolves, he uses his rays to scorch the three worlds. All the gods are in his scorcher. He is supreme amongst those who scorch. He is the Lord of everything in the universe. He is a witness to everything in the universe, good or bad. He is the one who draws in creatures, and he is the one who creates them again. He uses his rays to illuminate, scorch and preserve. So we know how important the sun is to the earth, right? Even geographically, scientifically, physically speaking. Notice how they had stumbled upon this exact same conclusion with just their contemplation and meditations, etc. They had just thought and thought and thought. Thinking is a great, valuable skill set that we have lost to a large extent in today's modern times. If there's one thing I hope the next generation of us Bharatiyas, especially Hindus, regain, is the power of thinking. So see, thinking का इतना power है कि कितने हजार साल पहले ये समझ में आया कि sun is the main creator and main driving force, at least the most direct and obvious driving force behind everything that's happening on earth. And as for who's creating the sun, उसके पीछे तो फिजिक्स में डार्क एनर्जी है ही, और यहाँ पे हम जिसको ब्राह्मणस्पति प्रजापति ये सब बोलेंगे. He uses his he uses his rays to illuminate, scorch and preserve. We know this is exactly true. He is the creator and the ordainer. He is the original cause behind the creation of all beings. He never decays, nor does his disk ever decay. Achha, this they got wrong because we know that someday it will get decayed. He is the ancestor among the ancestors. He is the god among the gods. His position is said to be the eternal one, and if one attains that, one is never dislodged again. It is said that at the time of creation, everything in the universe originated from Aditya. At the time of destruction, everything enters into Bhaskara's blazing energy. When they cast aside this abode in the physical body, innumerable yogis enter the air and then merge into the mass of energy that is Divakara. Just as birds perch on branches, sages, siddhas and gods reside in his 1,000 rays. There were kings, Janaka and others who were in a stage of Garhasya and were devoted to yoga. This Janaka is not to be confused with the Janaka who was Sita's father. There were several kings named Janaka in the Janaka lineage. This is a footnote mentioned by Bibek Debroy. There were rishis who knew about the Brahman, Valakhilyas and others. There were those in Vanaprastha, Vyasa and others. There were Bhikshukas, all of them resorted to yoga and entered the solar disk. The handsome Shuka, Vyasa's son, resorted to yoga. He entered Aditya's rays and was united with him. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are mentioned in the sacred texts as those who grant happiness. So, interesting that Brahma Puran is saying that something is mentioned in the ancient texts, in the sacred texts, okay? So even people who are writing Brahma Puran consider something else to be sacred, not just their own writings, which obviously means Vedas. But they are mere words in those texts. Surya, the supreme god who destroys darkness, is directly visible. अच्छा, ये एक इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग है कि वो सेक्रेट टेक्स्ट है तो क्या है, वो तो सिर्फ टेक्स्ट है. सूर्य हमको सामने दिख रहा है. Therefore, if a person desires what is good for himself, he should not be devoted to anyone else. What is visible is always better than what cannot be seen. अरे ये देखो, ये definitely seems like post Upanishad writings, doesn't it? What is visible is always better than what cannot be seen. थोड़ा modern day rationalism आ रहा है gradually, जितना society evolve हो रहा है. Therefore, you must always worship the illustrious Ravi. He is the mother and the father. He is the preceptor of the entire universe, which is very true. He is without a beginning. He is the protector of the worlds. He is the one with a garland of rays. He is the Lord of the universe. O supreme among Brahmanas, it is Mitra who is the scorcher. Mitra is another name for Surya. Brahma is without a beginning and an end. He is always without decay. For the welfare of the worlds, while standing on the banks of the river Chandrasarit, he created the oceans, the dvipas, and the 14 worlds. Chandrasarit is sometimes identified with Chandrabhaga. Chandrabhaga is also a beach, right, just near Konark temple. He created all the Prajapatis and he created diverse kinds of subjects. The one with hundreds and thousands of rays is not manifest. However, he then manifested himself in the form of the 12 Adityas, Indra, Dhatri, Parjanya, Tvashta, Pusha, Aryama, Bhaga, Vivasvat, Vishnu, Amsha, Varuna, and Mitra. O supreme among Brahmanas. See, also, if at all we consider if that Brahma Purana must have been written in AD, so about 100 AD or so, even then वरुणा और मित्रा को यहाँ भी इन्वोक किया जा रहा है. और वरुणा मित्रा हम जानते हैं कि उसके कितने हजारों साल पहले in the Middle East Varuna was invoked. O supreme among Brahmanas, the Paramatman. O supreme among Brahmanas, the Paramatman was embodied in these 12 forms of Surya and pervaded the entire universe. Aditya's first embodied form is known as Indra. He is established as the king of the gods and destroys the enemies of the gods. The second embodiment of form is known by the name of Dhatri. He is established as Prajapati and creates diverse kinds of subjects. His third embodied form is known as Parjanya. He is established in the clouds and uses his rays to shower down. His fourth embodied form is famous by the name of Tvashta. He is established everywhere, in the trees and in the herbs. His fifth embodied form is famous by the name of Pusha. He is established in food and always nourishes subjects. Ravi's sixth embodied form is famous as Aryama. He is in the gods in the form of covering known as Vayu. Bhanu's seventh embodied form is famous by the name of Bhaga. He is established in the bodies of those with bodies in the form of elements. His eighth embodied form is famous as Vivasvat. He is established in fire and cooks the food in those with bodies. Chitrabhanu's ninth embodied form is named Vishnu. He always manifests himself to destroy the enemies of the gods. His 10th embodied form is famous as Anshuman, earlier referred to as Amsha. Established in the wind, he brings delight to subjects. Bhanu's 11th embodied form is known by the name of Varuna. Established in water, he always protects subjects. Bhanu's 12th embodied form is known by the name of Mitra. For the welfare of the worlds, he is stationed on the banks of Chandrasarit. Mitra stationed himself there, tormenting himself in the austerity and subsisting only on air. His glances always favor his devotees by granting them many kinds of boons. This was his original location, later re-established by Samba. Since Mitra stayed there, it is known as Mitravana. O supreme among Brahmanas, Through these 12 embodied forms of Savitar, Tat Savitur, Tat Savitur, maybe that's Savitar. Though these 12 embodied forms of Savitar, the Paramatman pervades the entire universe. Therefore, with faith in their hearts, men must always worship these 12 embodied forms. If a man thus worships these 12 forms of Aditya, or constantly hears about them, or reads about them, he obtains greatness in Surya's world. The sages asked, if Surya is the original and eternal God, why did he torment himself in austerity and ask for a boon like an ordinary being? See the tendency of questioning always. Okay, Shravya is asking, didn't the pagan Romans used to worship Mitras too? I think that god was known as Mithras. Okay, here the god is Mitra. Uska plural Mitras to nahi hoga. That's probably different. Nihilist is saying, have you read Shomode's Becoming Hindus and Muslims? Yesterday only I was checking out his profile, and yesterday only I found out about his book. This book completely punctures the secular narrative of Hindu Muslim syncretism in Bengal. I see. Apubos is saying, think and practice thinking. Yes, that's a famous legendary dialogue by a legendary Bengali film director. Okay. So now the sages are questioning. They are saying, if Surya is the original and eternal God, why did he torment himself in austerity and ask for a boon like an ordinary being? भगवान खुद क्यों वर मांग रहा है? Brahma replied, I will tell you about this extremely secret account of Vibhavasu. Earlier, the great-souled Narada had asked Mitra about this. I have already told you about Ravi's 12 embodied forms. Two of them, Mitra and Varuna, resorted to austerities. Of the two, Varuna stationed himself on the shores of the western ocean and subsisted on water. Mitra resorted to austerity in Mitravana, subsisting only on air. Narada is a great yogi who is capable of travelling in all the worlds. He descended from the summit of Mount Meru and went to Gandhamadana. He went to the place where Mitra was performing austerities. He was extremely curious at these supreme austerities being undertaken. He is without destruction and without decay. He is manifest and he is not manifest. He is the eternal one. He is the extremely great-souled one. He alone holds up the three worlds. He is the father of all the gods. He is greater than the greatest. Which god is he worshipping? Which ancestor is he worshipping? With these thoughts in mind, Narada spoke to the divinity. Narada said, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Vedangas, and the accompanying texts chant about you as the one without birth. You are the eternal one. You are the creator. You are the possessor of this great and excellent form, the past, the present, and the future, and everything is established in you. O God, the four ashramas, Garhasthya, and the others worship you every day. You are the one who has many different kinds of forms. You are the father and the mother for everyone. You are the eternal divinity. We do not know which god or ancestor you are worshipping, Mitra replied. This is an eternal and supreme secret and should not be spoken about. O Brahmana, however, you are full of devotion. I will tell you the truth about this. He is subtle and cannot be comprehended. He is not manifest. He does not move. He is eternal. He does not possess the senses and is impervious to the objects of the senses. He is beyond the elements. He is in the Atmans of all creatures and is spoken of as Kshetrajna, Kshetragya. He is thought of as Purusha, who is beyond the three gunas. He is the illustrious Hiranyagarbha, who is spoken of as supreme intelligence. In yoga, he is spoken of as Mahat and Pradhana. Though he is one in Samkhya and Yoga, he is spoken of with many different kinds of names. He has three forms, probably not certainly, meaning Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. He is the Atman of the universe. He is alone the one without decay. Within himself he holds up the three worlds. He is without a body, but always resides in all bodies. Though he resides in bodies, he is not touched by the acts of karma. He is in my inner core and also inside others who have bodies. He is a witness to everything, but no one is ever able to comprehend him. He is with gunas and without gunas. He is the universe. It has been said that he can be perceived through jnana. The ends of his hands and feet are everywhere. His eyes, heads and mouths are in every direction. His ears are in every direction. He stands there, pervading everything. The universe is his head. The universe is his arms. The universe is his feet, eyes and noses. As he wills, he happily moves around in the bodies. The bodies are kshetras. Kshetras means field. Kshetragya means one who knows about the kshetra. Agya about kshetras. Therefore, the bodies are kshetras and he cheerfully moves around in them. Therefore, those who have yoga in their Atmans speak of him as kshetragya. Earlier, when he lay down in his unmanifest form, he was spoken of as Purusha. In the universe, he is known in many different kinds of forms. It is said that he is everywhere. Therefore, since he possesses many different kinds of forms, he is spoken of as Vishwarupa. The universe is his form, therefore Vishwarupa. Since he is alone in his greatness, he is spoken of as the absolute Purusha. He alone is radiant and eternal and is known as Mahapurusha, the great Purusha. With an intelligence full of sattva, he acts so as to create himself out of his own self. Hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands and crores of time. He thus creates forms out of his own self. The water that falls down from the sky acquires a specific taste because of the juices in the earth. Like that, he imbibes the juices of the gunas. Though the wind is one, it has 5 forms in the body. Prana draws breath into the body, Apana exhales it, Vyana distributes it through the body, and Samana assimilates it. Udana gives rise to sound. These are the 5 forms of the breath of life. There is no doubt that he possesses one and many forms. Just as the fire acquires different kinds of names depending on where it is located, he also has different names: Dhruva, Brahma, I, and others. Thousands of lamps can be ignited from a single lamp. In the same way, thousands of forms are created from a single source. At the time of destruction, he realizes himself only in a single form. Thereafter, many forms are created. No entity in the universe, mobile or immobile, is permanent. He alone is without decay. He is immeasurable and is spoken of as someone who can go everywhere. O supreme among sages, the unmanifest with the 3 gunas evolved out of him. This unmanifest form, whose nature is also not manifest, is spoken of as Prakriti. Know that this is Brahma's womb, the unmanifest form whose nature is also not manifest. Cause and effect exist inside this. Alternatively, instead of cause and effect, the existent and the non-existent reside inside this. In the worlds, in the forms of rites to gods, rites, rites to gods and ancestors, it is he who is worshipped. O Brahmanas, no one, god or ancestor, exists who is superior to him. Since this is addressed to Narada, it should be in the singular. He can be comprehended through the Atman. It is he that I am worshipping. All the embodied beings who are in heaven bow down to him. O Devarshi, they obtain the fruits that they desire and the intended destination. Restoring to many different kinds of forms, the gods have their own ashramas. When they worship him faithfully, he grants them their original and ultimate destinations. He is spoken of as the one without gunas, someone who is omnipresent. Having heard this and having understood this, I am worshipping Divakara. In this world, those who think about him resort to him alone. Beyond this, they obtain union with that single one. O Narada, I have thus instructed you about something that is supremely secret. O Devarshi, I have told you because you are extremely devoted to me. All the sages who are learned in the Puranas worship the Paramatman in the form of Divakara. In earlier times, this is what Bhanu told Narada. O supreme among Brahmanas, I have told you what Bhanu recounted, what the sun god himself said to Narada. O supreme among Brahmanas, I have spoken about this account to you. However, this account should never be revealed to those who are not devoted to Aditya. If a man constantly hears this, or having heard, recounts it to another, there is no doubt that he enters the god with the 1,000 rays. If one hears this account right from the beginning, an afflicted person is freed from disease, and the curious obtain knowledge and the desired end. O sage, a person who reads this is instantly liberated. There is no doubt that such a person obtains what he desires. Therefore, all of you must always worship the illustrious Ravi. He is the creator and the ordainer. He is the preceptor of the entire universe. And here by O sage, it is meant Vishnu. That was fascinating. Okay. Shravya is saying, I have heard that Mitra later evolved into Mitras. No, Mitras of Roman, Mitra of Zoroastrians, and our Mitra is one and the same deity. I see. Its worship left India with people following the sun where it sets. Oh, okay. Now, since we are on the topic of all sun gods, therefore, the next subchapter is about Martanda. Because Martanda is also the sun god, because we have the Martanda sun temple in Anantnag, Kashmir. Brahma continued, O supreme among sages, Aditya is the origin of everything in the three worlds. O Indras among Brahmanas, everything in the universe originates with him. The gods, the asuras, and humans, the great radiance of Rudra, Upendra, the great Indra, and those who reside in heaven, and the energy in all the worlds. He is in all Atmans. He is the Lord of the worlds. He is the God of the gods. He is Prajapati. Surya is the root behind the three worlds. He is the supreme divinity. The oblations that are properly offered to Agni reach Aditya. Rain results from Aditya. The rain leads to food for objects. Everything originates in Surya. Everything is dissolved into him. In ancient times, the existence and non-existence of everything in the worlds flowed from Aditya. For those who meditate, he is Dhyana. For those who seek moksha, he is moksha. Those who are liberated enter into him. It is from him that they are repeatedly born. Without Aditya's existence, the measurement of time, kshana, muhurta, day, night, fortnight, month, year, season, and yuga would not have been possible. So, now Bibek Debroy makes a footnote here. Though it is sometimes used in the sense of an instant, a muhurta is a measure of time equal to 48 minutes. Kshana is a smaller measure of time. See, because obviously in those days, the sun was all they had that could help them denote time. That's why they had sundials. Without measurement of time, there would have been no niyama, no indication of when rites were to be performed. Without division into seasons, how could there have been flowers and fruits? How would crops have grown? Where would grass and herbs have come from? In their absence, there would have been no sustenance of creatures on earth and in heaven. These things exist in the universe because of Bhaskara's powers and because of what he does. In the absence of rain, Surya does not scorch. If there is no rain, everything dries up. If there is no rain, Ravi's disk is dimmed. It is because of the rains that he shines. Surya is tawny, Tawny. Tawny in the spring, it's a color. Surya is tawny in the spring and has a complexion of gold in the summer. Bhaskara is white during the rainy season and pale in autumn. In late autumn, Ravi has the complexion of copper. In winter, he is red. We have translated Hemanta as late autumn and Shishira as winter. The cold season is Hemanta, between autumn and winter. Winter proper is Shishira. Hemanta is the months of Margashirsha, also known as Agrahayana, and Pausha. Margashirsha is roughly mid-November to mid-December, while Pausha is mid-December to mid-January. Shishira is the months of Magha, mid-January to mid-February, and Phalguna, mid-February to mid-March. Surya's complexions that result from the seasons have been described. These natural hues of Surya in different seasons bring different welfare and happinesses. These natural hues of Surya in different seasons bring welfare and happiness. That is the reason in this world, Aditya generally has 12 names. I will separately tell you all these 12 names. So even before the Gregorian calendar, we also had 12 seasons and 12 months, and essentially months, and therefore 12 names for Surya. This is fascinating. We have 12 names for the sun because we had figured out 12 different kinds of weathers before the Gregorian calendar. Aditya, Savitar, Surya, Mehra, Arka, Prabhakara, Martanda, Bhaskara, Bhanu, Chitrabhanu, Divakara, and Ravi. That is, this set of 12 names is used on earth in general, whereas the next set of 12 is specific to specific months. In general, these are known as Ravi's 12 names. Now these are for specific months. In this month, this name has to be used, and the 12 names that we already discussed is used in general. In general, these are known as Ravi's 12 names: Vishnu, Dhatri, Bhaga, Pusha, Mitra, Indra, Varuna, Aryama, Vivasvat, Amshuman, Tvashta, and Parjanya. These 12 forms of Aditya are separately established. They always rise in the respective 12 months. Vishnu heats in Chaitra, Aryama in Vaishakha, Vivasvat in the month of Jyeshtha, Amshuman is in Vaishakha, and Amshuman is said to be in Ashadha, Parjanya in the month of Shravana, Varuna in what is known as Praushtha, Indra in the month of Ashvayuja, Dhatri heats in Kartika, Mitra in Margashirsha, Pusha is the sun in Pausha, Bhaga is said to be the sun in Magha, and Tvashta heats in Phalguna. Chaitra is March to April, Vaishakha is April to May, Jyeshtha is May to June, Ashadha is June to July, Shravana is July to August, Praushtha is also known as Praushtapada or Bhadra in August to September, Ashvayuja or Ashvina is September to October, Kartika is October to November, Margashirsha or Agrahayana is November to December, Pausha is December to January, Magha is January to February, and Phalguna is February to March. Vishnu always blazes with 1200 rays, Aryama heats with 1300 rays, Vivasvat with 1400, Amshuman with 1500, Parjanya with 1400 like Vivasvat, Varuna with 1300 like Aryama, Indra is said to have 1200, Dhatri with 1100, Mitra with 1000, Pusha with 900, and Mitra, Bhaga, and Tvashta with 1000 each. During Uttarayana, Arka's rays progressively increase. During Dakshinayana, Surya's rains progressively decrease. Thus, Surya sustains the worlds through thousands of rays. These nurture the different seasons in many kinds of ways. Thus, the 24 names have been spoken about. There are also 1000 names that have been described. The sages said, O Prajapati, O Supreme Lord, if a person praises Arka with those 1000 names, what is the auspicious end that he obtains? Brahma replied, O tigers among sages, this external essence. These 1000 auspicious names must be recited and praised. These names are sacred, auspicious, and secret. Secret. Remember, in the History of Indian Philosophy book, we were discussing a similar concept that something Upanishad is supposed to be secret. Upanishad's knowledge is supposed to be secret. This sounds like again an Upanishad parallel or post-Upanishad text. These names are sacred, auspicious, and secret. I will recount Bhaskara's names to you. Listen. Vikartana, Vivasvat, Martanda, Bhaskara, Ravi, Loka Prakashaka, Shriman, Shriman, Lokachakshu, Maheshwara, Lokasakhi, Trilokesha, Karta. Now, Karta or Karta? Karta probably. Harta, yeah. Karta, Harta, Tamisraha, Tapana, Tapana, Shuchi, Tapana and Tapana both, okay? Saptashva Vahana, Gabhasti Hasta, Brahmanya, Gabhasti Hasta, Brahmanya, Sarvadeva Namaskrita, Sarvadeva Namaskrita. Okay. What a great name, what a great concept in this just one word. Sarvadeva Namaskrita. Amazing. These 21 names of Ravi are always praised and delight him. They destroy diseases of the body. They ensure an increase in wealth and fame. In 3 worlds, these names are famous as Stavaraja, literally king of hymns. Stob, in Bengali, stob means oblations, the offerings, salutations, etc. during the yagyas. So in English it's pronounced as, in Sanskrit it's pronounced as Stava. So Stava Raja means king of hymns. But I will just underline that word again, that name again. It's a beautiful name. Sarva Deva Namaskrita. O best among Brahmanas, if a person purifies himself and uses this to praise to Surya at the time of the 2 sandhyas, dawn and dusk, he is cleansed of all sins. If one performs this japa once, in Arka's presence, all ailments of mind, speech, body and deeds are destroyed. One such single japa is used at the time of offering oblations, at the time of the Sandhya worship, as part of the mantra when incense and arghya are offered, as part of the mantra when offerings are rendered, and as part of the mantra when food or other donations are given, or when one prostrates oneself or performs pradakshina. This is a great mantra and is worshipped. It is auspicious and destroys all sins. O Brahmanas, therefore, you should carefully use it in your praises. When he is praised, he is the divinity who confers boons that yield all the fruits of desire. Let me have a sip of coffee now. Okay, Abhay is saying our actual history should be secret. Yes. Secret ही रहेगा अभी हम secret से निकाल रहे हैं. Okay, now Martanda's birth and pairing. This will be interesting. The sages said, you have said that the eternal God, Divakara, is devoid of gunas. However, we have also heard from you that he was again born in 12 different forms. How was Bhaskara, that immensely radiant one, a mass of energy, born from the womb of a woman? Oh God, we have a great doubt about this. Raising questions. Brahma replied, Daksha had 60 beautiful and excellent daughters, Diti, Aditi, Danu, Vinata, and others. He bestowed 13 of those daughters on Kashyapa. Aditi gave birth to the gods, the lords of the three worlds. Diti gave birth to Daityas and Danu gave birth to Danavas, who were fierce and intoxicated on account of their strength. Vinata and others gave birth to various mobile and immobile entities. O sage, this should be in the plural. O sage, the entire universe was pervaded with these sons, daughters. The entire universe was pervaded with these sons, daughters, paternal grandsons, and maternal grandsons. Amongst Kashyapa's sons, the foremost were the categories of the gods. They were full of sattva. The other categories are said to have been full of rajas and tamas. Parameshthi Prajapati, supreme among those who know about the Brahman, created the gods as those who would be the lords of the three worlds and would have a share in the sacrifices. Their rivals, the Daityas and the Danavas, were their enemies and obstructed them in this. There was an extremely terrible battle and that lasted for 1000 divine years, with the Rakshasas also tormenting the gods. The powerful Daityas and Danavas were victorious in the battle. O supreme among sages, Aditi saw that the Daityas and the Danavas had repulsed her sons and had taken away the three worlds from them. Since their shares in sacrifices had been taken away from them, they were hungry. She was greatly afflicted. With a great deal of care she worshipped Savitar. She was attentive and controlled her intake of food. She observed supreme niyama. Divakara, the mass of energy in the sky, was satisfied. Aditi said, I bow down to the supremely subtle one. I prostrate myself before the unmatched radiance. You are the refuge. You are the lord of all those who are refugees. You are the one who supports refugees. You are the eternal one. O Lord of the rays, for the benefit of the universe, I am bowing down before you. I bow down before the fierce form through which you suck up and accept the juices from the water for a period of 8 months. I bow down before that fierce and radiant form. I bow down before the form that has rajas during the 2 sandhyas. Rajas is associated with the color red. O one who has the gunas in his Atman, please grant me my wish. You scorch in a form that unites the Rig, Yajur and Sama. In this universe, you are the one who represents these three. I bow down before the Radiant One. You are the supreme form that is spoken about in Om. You are the one who is addressed. You are the gross and the subtle. You are the eternal and pure. I bow down before you. Brahma continued, O Brahmanas, desiring to worship Vivasvat, the queen controlled herself and fasted, using this stotram day and night. O Brahmanas, after a long period of time, the illustrious Tapana manifested himself before Daksha's daughter. O supreme among Brahmanas, though Bhanu was standing on the ground, she saw a lofty mass of energy that covered the sky. His blazing garland made it extremely difficult to look at him. Blazing garland means the sun rays. On seeing him, the goddess was filled with great fear. Aditi said, O origin of the universe, please be pacified. O Lord of the rays, I cannot look at you. Show me your favors. O Divakara, show me a form I can behold. O Lord, show compassion towards a devotee. I am devoted to you. Save my sons. At this, Vibhavasu revealed himself from behind the mass of energy. Lord Aditya could then be seen in a form that resembled molten copper. So, they also realize that the sun is made of essentially molten. It's a hot burning fire ball of fire, and they're comparing it with molten copper, which seems pretty apt. O Brahmanas, he spoke to the goddess, who had prostrated herself on seeing him. The Radiant One said, "Ask me for whatever boon you desire." She sank on her knees on the ground and lowered her head. She replied to Vivaswat, the granter of boons, who had manifested himself. Aditi said, "O God, show me your favors. The three worlds have been taken away from my sons, and so have the shares in sacrifices. The Daityas and the Danavas are stronger than them. O Lord of the rays, for that reason, show me your favors. Use your portion to be born as their brother, so that the enemies can be destroyed." ये देखो अहिंसा, enemies को destroy करना ही है. O Lord, let my sons again and again regain their shares in sacrifices and become lords of the three worlds again. O Divakara, O Ravi, be pleased with me and also show compassion towards my sons. O afflictor of distress for those who seek refuge in you, you are the one who can act so as to ensure this. O Brahmanas, the Lord illustrious Bhaskara, the possessor of a pleasant face, the one who steals the waters, because the sun dries up the waters, they know this, of course. Of course they can find it out because it's during the day everything is drying up. The one who steals the waters spoke to Aditi, who was prostrate in front of him. I will use 1,000th bit of my portion to be born in your womb. I will become your son and swiftly burn down the enemy. Having said this, the illustrious and radiant one vanished. With all her wishes having been accomplished, she too refrained from austerity. After 1 year was over, Ravi used one of his 1,000 rays, known as Shushumna, to fulfill her wishes. Savita resided in the womb of the mother of the gods. Controlling herself well, she observed Kritcha, Chandrayana, and other vows. Chandrayana is a kind of fasting that follows the progress or Aryana of the moon, the Chandra. Chandra Aryana. Ayana. Okay, Ayana, not Aryana. The Ayana of the moon, Sachandra Ayana. On the full moon night, one only eats 15 mouthfuls of food. For the 15 lunar days following the full moon, this is decreased by 1 mouthful per day. For the 15 lunar days following the new moon, this is increased by 1 mouthful per day. Kricha means a vow of hardship. O Brahmanas, she purified herself and nurtured this divine fetus. At this, Kashyapa addressed her in words that had a slight tinge of rage. Kashyapa said, "By constantly fasting, do you wish to destroy the egg that is in your womb?" See, this is so significant. They are being sensible and questioning everything. Even Kashyapa is questioning what his wife had decided is supposed to be done as a necessary ritual or a rite, R-I-T-E, right. And he's saying, "Itna fast karoge to पैदा कैसे होगा बच्चा?" By constantly fasting, do you wish to destroy the egg that is in your womb? On being thus addressed, she was filled with anger and replied, "See for yourself. The egg in the womb is incapable of being killed by the enemy. Instead, it will be like their death." Having said this, angry at her husband's words, she discharged that extremely terrible fetus, which blazed in its energy. Kashyapa saw that the fetus possessed the resplendence of the rising sun. He bowed down and praised it in generous and eloquent words. Thus praised, the egg in the womb manifested himself. His complexion was like that of lotus petals, and his energy enveloped the directions. From the firmament, an invisible voice addressed Kashyapa, the supreme sage, and his wife, in words that rumbled like the clouds. The voice said, "Aditi's egg was spoken of as dead. O sage, therefore, your son will be known as Martanda. From egg, anda, that has been killed, Marita or Mrita, so Martanda, So since Kashyapa had denoted it as if it's about to die or it might die, but it was born anyway and born from such a womb, therefore its name became Martanda. This is a fascinating story. I will have to remember this, so let me just mark this. Martanda story. He will slay the enemy Asuras, those who have stolen the shares in sacrifices. Hearing the voice that spoke from the firmament, the gods were filled with unmatched joy. Thinking that the Danavas had been robbed of their energy, Shatakratu challenged the Daityas to a battle. Along with the gods, he cheerfully fought against the Danavas too. There was an extremely terrible battle between the gods and the Asuras. The shower of blazing astras and shastras covered all the space between the worlds. A footnote here by Bibek Debroy says, the text uses both astra and shastra. These are both weapons and the words are often used synonymously. However, an astra is a weapon that is hurled or released, while a shastra is held in the hand. Nice. This I didn't know. This is pretty important, right? So, astra is like a spear or something, and shastra is a sword. In that battle, the illustrious Martanda glanced at the great Asuras and used his energy to burn and reduce them to ashes. At this, all the residents of heaven were filled with unmatched delight. They praised Martanda and Aditi, the womb of that energy. As was the case earlier, they got back their positions and their shares in sacrifices. The illustrious Martanda also arranged for his own rites. His form could clearly be seen, as radiant as a ball of fire, surrounded by his rays above and below, shining like the flower of a kadamba tree. Okay, lots of new comments. Abhay is saying, did anyone check out Vegetarianism in India podcast on Charvaka? Yeah, I plan to see it. Rampal Ashok Thakur is saying, how did Chaturanga vanish out from India? Do you have any idea? No idea. I came to know about you from Reddit. Oh, okay, someone posted my videos on Reddit then. Thank you whoever did it, and thank you for joining us, Rampal Ashok Thakur. I have watched some of your late night streams. Never stop doing streams. Thank you. I watch it during evening later. Yeah. I'll try to do them a little earlier. Right now, a very important music, background music work has come in. That's why I'm not being able to wake up a little earlier. Otherwise, I plan to shift them towards 8 to 10 p.m. as well. Rampala Shuttakur is saying, I know that fasting. Okay. Today, Gandhi will be proud. Is Sudarshana Chakra Shastra or Astra? Since it's being hurled, therefore, it's okay, which one was which? Let's see. Astra is a weapon that is hurled or released. Yeah. So Sudarshana Chakra is an Astra. Shastra is only sword, knives, shield, etc. Shield is not really. Shield is considered for defense. So the sages asked. Later, how did Ravi obtain a more handsome form, resembling the flower of a kadamba tree? Or, O Lord of the universe, please tell us that. Brahma replied, Svashta Prajapati Vishwakarma bestowed his daughter, named Samgya, on Vivaswat, after bowing down before him and pleasing him. The Lord of the Rays had 3 children through her. There were 2 extremely fortunate sons, and there was later a daughter, Yamuna. Guys, whoever has been following our History of Indian Philosophy streams will notice here that the claim I'm repeatedly making that this seems to be a post Upanishad text or a parallel Upanishad text, because the beginning of Brahma Purana was not very Upanishadi, so to speak. Okay, it's gradually heading to that direction. Okay, so notice here that in the beginning, the parts which I have not discussed with you guys, whenever they were discussing any lineages, they were always saying that he had 10,000 sons, he had 7,000 sons, he had 12,000 sons, which are obviously metaphors or maybe means their followers or people who believed in their ideas. Now see, for the first time in the Brahma Purana, a believable number of kids is first discussed. So the age of rationality or the modern day realisticness of things is being discussed in Brahma Purana. It's gradually becoming more and more realistic and getting away from metaphors and condensations of long stretches of time. So the Lord of the Rays had 3 children through her. This is for the first time someone's not having thousands of children, okay? There were 2 extremely fortunate sons and there was later a daughter, Yamuna. Martanda Vivaswat's energy was excessive. All the mobile and immobile objects in the 3 worlds were excessively scorched because of this. Vivaswat's form was like a ball. When she looked at his great energy, Samgya could not tolerate it. She spoke to her own shadow. The word Chaya means shadow. Samgya said, "O fortunate one, I am going to my father's house. O auspicious one, without being disturbed, obey my command and remain here in my place. O one with the beautiful complexion, O fortunate one, I have these 2 sons and a daughter. Rear them as your own and don't reveal this." Chaya replied, the shadow replied, "Go where you wish. However, if I am seized by the hair or cursed, I will reveal everything." Thus addressed, somewhat ashamed, Samgya went to her father's house. She was ashamed because she shouldn't have left her husband's household. She resided in her father's house for 1000 years. Okay, we are back to metaphors now. Her father repeatedly told her, "Go to your husband's presence." She then assumed the form of a mare, Mare, and went to Uttarakuru, O supreme among Brahmanas. Fasting, the virtuous lady tormented herself in austerity there. When Samgya went off to her father's house, Chaya followed her words, her shadow. She assumed, maybe it's a metaphor for a servant or maid or something. Chaya followed her words. She assumed her form and presented herself before Bhaskara. The illustrious Surya thought that she was Samgya, the Chaya, that shadow. Through her, he had 2 sons and a daughter. Like an ordinary woman, Chaya was no longer as affectionate towards the children who had been born earlier. Manu forgave her, but Yama was unable to do so. Manu was the elder of Samgya's sons. Yama was the younger one. Okay. He was extremely unhappy that his father's wife made him suffer in many kinds of ways. Perhaps it was because of anger, perhaps it was because he was a child, or perhaps because of destiny. He raised his foot to kick her, though he did not actually bring it down on her body. Chaya said, "You have raised a foot to kick your father's wife, who is your senior. Therefore, there is no doubt that your foot will fall down." Yama's mind suffered a great deal because of this curse. Along with Manu, who had Dharma in his soul, he went to his father and reported everything. Yama said, "O God, our mother is not equal in affection towards us. She ignores the elder children and is more devoted to the younger ones. I raised my foot, but I did not actually bring it down on her body. If I have done this out of childishness or delusion, you should pardon me. O Father, I am a son and my mother has angrily cursed me. O supreme among those who scorch, O supreme among those who scorch, I do not think that she is our mother. O illustrious one, show me your favors and ensure that my foot does not fall down because of my mother's curse. O God, O Lord of the Rays, please think of a means." Ravi replied, "O son, O one who knows about Dharma, you follow Dharma. There must have been a grave reason behind this. Otherwise, why must you succumb to rage? There are ways to counter every curse. However, there is no means to counter a mother's curse. I am incapable of acting in a way that is contrary to your mother's words." This is a pretty important line. Why must you succumb to rage? There are ways to counter every curse, however, there is no means to counter a mother's curse. I am incapable of acting in a way that is contrary to your mother's words. However, I can do something to reduce the impact of the curse. Worms will tear flesh from your foot and enter the earth. That way, her words will come true and you will be saved. Aditya then told Chaya, one should be equally affectionate towards all the sons. Why are you partial towards one? Towards one set, not one literally. Towards one set from the kids who are from Samgya. You are certainly not their mother, known by the name of Samgya. Even if offspring do not possess any qualities, mothers do not curse them. Scared of being cursed by Ravi, she revealed what she had avoided thus far. Hearing the account, he went to his father-in-law, who honored Vibhavasu in the proper way. Since he wished to burn him down in his rage, the one who was excellent in his vows pacified him. Vishwakarma said, everything is pervaded by your form. Okay, 1 minute. There are too many mosquitoes now. Okay, mosquito chala gaya. Let's check some comments. Rampal Ashok Thakur is saying, in the movie Interstellar, the hero reaches a place where one hour corresponds to 7 years on Earth. That can be the case here also. There are some arguments that claim that, but there's, I think, another problem is that how time was counted back then and how time is counted now is different, right? So the Hindu way of counting, Hindu time, Hindu calendar, everything is different. So there's something is lost in the translation there as well. Shravya is saying Chaya's son was Shanidev. Okay. And so Chaya's son is Shanidev and Samgya's sons are Manu and Yama. This Manu is not that Manu, obviously. So, hearing the account, he went to his father-in-law, who honored Vibhavasu in the proper way. यो कैसे बनाऊंगा? Shit. Who honored Vibhavasu in the proper way. Since he wished to burn him down in his rage, the one who was excellent in his vows pacified him. Vishwakarma said, everything is pervaded by your form, which is excessive in its energy. It is extremely difficult to tolerate. Unable to bear it, Samgya is performing austerity in the forest. She is auspicious in her deeds, and you will see your own wife today. She is performing extremely great austerity in the forest so that you have a handsome form. O God, I have heard Brahma's words. O Lord of the day, if it appeals to you, I will shave off your form and make it more handsome now. The illustrious Ravi agreed to what Tvashta had said earlier. Vivaswat's form had been like a ball. With Vivaswat's permission, in Shakadvipa, Vishwakarma mounted him on his wheel and gradually started to shave off the energy. The sun is like the navel of the world. As he was whirled around, the earth, the oceans, the mountains and the forests rose up into the sky. O Brahmanas, O immensely fortunate ones, the entire firmament with the moon, the planets and the stars moved downwards and was anxious and agitated. All the waters in the oceans were hurled around. Giant mountains shattered. Their summits broke off and were fragmented. O supreme among sages, everything that found a support in Dhruva was torn apart. Everything that found a support in Dhruva was torn apart. It was as if the bonds snapped, and without the rays, which were like bonds, they headed downwards. Agitated by the wind, thousands of clouds were whirled around. Uttering fierce and terrible roars, those giant clouds were scattered. As the sun was whirled around, the earth, the sky and the nether regions, the patala, the nether regions were confused. O supreme among sages, at that time, The entire universe was extremely anxious. Seeing that the three worlds were being whirled around, the divine rishis and gods, along with Brahma, praised the Radiant One. Among the gods, you are the original God. You have originated for the prosperity of the world. At the time of creation, preservation, and destruction, you are established in three distinct forms. O Lord of the universe, O one who showers down during the summer, O Divakara, may all be well with you. As he was being pared down, Indra and the other gods praised him in the following way. O God, victory to you. O Lord of everything in the universe, O Lord of the rays, victory to you. The seven rishis, with Vasishtha and Atri at the forefront, praised him with many different stotrams and pronounced benedictions. The Valakhilyas praised him with choice words from the Vedas. As the sun was being pared down, Angiras and others rejoiced and said, O Lord, you grant moksha to those who desire moksha. You are the supreme object of dhyana for those who meditate. You are the destination for all creatures who are engaged in karmakanda. O Lord of the gods, O Lord of the universe. Karmakanda stands for ritualistic worship. You are the one who deserves to be worshipped. May everything be beneficial for bipeds. May everything be beneficial for quadrupeds. All the large numbers of Vidyadharas, Yakshas, Rakshasas and Pannagas joined their hands in salutation and bowing their heads down, prostrated themselves before Ravi. They uttered diverse kinds of words and stotrams that brought pleasure to the mind. O Creator of beings, may beings be able to tolerate your energy. Accomplished Gandharvas like Haha, Huhu, Narada and Tumburu started to sing songs in Ravi's praise. Not to be confused with the rishis, this Narada is Gandharva. Haha, Huhu and Narada and Tumburu, they are Gandharvas. This is funny. They were accomplished in the three notes of Shadaja, Madhyama and Gandhara and used Murchana and Tala that was pleasant to hear. The seven Swaras notes are Shadaja. Now we are discussing Saregamapa, okay? Shadaja is Sa, Rishabha is Ri, Gandhara is Ga, Madhyama, Panchama, Dhaivata and Nishada. Murchana is moving up or down the scale. With seven swaras to start, with seven swaras to start, there are thus seven murchanas. Tala is the beat of time in music. So, they were accomplished in the three notes of Sa, Ma and Ga, Shadaja, Madhyama and Gandhara, and used Murchana and Tala that was pleasant to hear. They were using three notes. As Vibhavasu, the Lord of the universe, was being pared down, Vishvachi, Ghritachi, Urvashi, Tilottama, Menaka, Sahajanya, Rambha, and other supreme apsaras danced. They exhibited many kinds of dramatic gestures and glances. Flutes, veenas, jharjharas, which is another musical instrument like a pipe, drums, kettle drums, tambourines, double-sided drums, larger drums, double-sided drums meaning mridangam or pakhwaj, dhol, those kinds of things. Larger drums, the drums of the gods, and conch shells, shankh obviously. Conch shells were sounded in hundreds and thousands. The Gandharvas sang and large numbers of apsaras danced. All the trumpets and the sound of musical instruments generated a tumultuous sound. Their hands were joined in salutation and their forms were lowered, full of devotion. As the one with the 1,000 rays was pared down, all the gods bowed down to him. Because all the creatures had assembled, there was a great uproar. Placing him on the wheel, Vishwakarma gradually pared down his energy. The accomplished Vishwakarma pared him down right up to his knees. He did not like the idea of paring down anymore. The intolerable energy was pared down and his form became even more beautiful. Because of his great beauty, he was radiant. During winter, the rainy season or summer, if a person listens to his account of Bhanu, praised by Hara, the one seated on the lotus, means Brahma, and Vishnu, being pared down at the end of his life, he goes to Divakara's world. O supreme among sages, this is how Ravi was born in earlier times. I have also described his supreme form. So this is where we end the Brahma Purana discussion today. The next day, next week, when we discuss Brahma Purana, the next subchapter will be Surya's 108 names. वहाँ से हम शुरू करेंगे. That will be fun. Okay, let's check out some comments. Okay, lots of comments. Rampal Ashok Thakur is saying, when he asked Brahma about a suitable groom for his daughter, Brahma laughed at him and said that in this brief period, many human years have passed by in earth. Brahma suggests Revati to many Balaram, and that's how Balaram got married to Revati. I see. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for joining in this middle of the night. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we are continuing our discussion of history of Indian philosophy. Okay, and the day next we will discuss a paper written by a Bengali sociologist from an assistant professor in University of Singapore on how casteism was everywhere, especially Japan, Europe, etc. Okay, good night guys.